Mahirap ba, Congresswoman, to get into the thick of things, to get into the data, and really ferret out the truth and weed away those who are not supposed to be in the system? Is it that hard?
No, it's not hard.
Then why aren't they doing it?
Well, first you have to have the political will. We started that. It was quite hard initially, but we were able to do it. Unfortunately, with the change of administration, marami yung pumasok at then na-influence sila ng mga people who were really involved in fraud, and they overturned all the reforms. That's why we are in this mess again.
So where do you begin to unravel this? Tama ho ba itong pagtanggal ng subsidiya? Katulad na yung sinabi mo, the message is very clear. The message is clear, but is it enough to crack the whip?
Well, partially yes, partially no.
How
okay.
so?
Why? It might send wrong signals to the healthcare providers kasi many of the healthcare providers are not really that familiar with the finances of Philhealth. Baka sabihin ng iba, nako, wag na natin i-entertain yung Philhealth patients kasi baka walang pambayad ang Philhealth. So that will affect healthcare. That's why we have to have a very good messaging na may pera ang Philhealth. May pambayad pa rin sila. Now, on the other hand, it's basically like making a very strong message, shape up or get out. Parang ganon. So I'm not saying it's like the president of Philhealth because it's only one person. But the problem really is on the grounds, dito sa baba. Marami ang ipinasok dyan, inappoint dyan na hindi naman qualified. Qualified sila sa ibang aspeto. It's just like the pandemic where testing and vaccination were headed by non-medical experts. It's also the same in Philhealth. May mga pinasok na hindi nila alam ang trabaho ng health financing, and that should be corrected.
All right. With your indulgence, Congresswoman, I do want to touch on another hot topic within the confines of where you work, the House of Representatives. We do know that there's, I think the Quadcom, as we speak, is wrapping up the final day of their hearing for this year. They did say that they hope to continue on with their inquiry excuse me, even early next year. It's just that we're wrapping up things for this year. How has it affected the work there at the House of Representatives? And when there is this third impeachment complaint set to be filed next week, what is your take on that, and what is your reading of what is happening right now, Congresswoman?
Well, on the issue of the Quadcom taking away the time of Congress, I don't think so, because we have a lot of members of Congress. Not everybody is attending Quadcom. Ang nangyari nga lang is like we have to double time. Where before, members of Congress would be in the district most of the time and will be in Manila 2.5 days a week. What's happening now is we are forced to be in Congress 4 days a week, and we stay until late in the evening. And it has no effect insofar as the work of Congress is concerned. Napipilitan lang talaga yung iba to be physically present and to minimize their presence in the respective districts. But that is our job, and we have to do that. Now, this has actually pinpointed a lot of things that on a legislative aspect, we can actually initiate reforms. Unang-una, Quadcom has seen how many uniformed personnel have had cases because of what happened previously. Ang daming mga ordinaryong empleyado ng gobyerno, officials of government, that would end up with cases with no protection every time a government changes. So that should be looked into. Yung sumunod ka lang, pero mali naman ang ikinumpas sa'yo, damay ka. And that's a very sad thing. There is also the issue of impunity, or yung mga iba rin na nabigyan ng, let's say in Togo, nabigyan ng permit, but it was abused. And it resorted to many illegal acts. So the good thing about this is that we can see a working government. No? And unfortunately, not all will agree, but you can see na maraming nakikitang loopholes. And abuses were happening because government allowed it. So now government is not allowing it, and we're trying to police everything. With regards to the impeachment, I really haven't seen, and I don't want to preempt it. And I would leave it to the wisdom of majority of the members of Congress, and even Senate, because that will go up to them. But I believe this is coming up from the fact that during the course of investigation, specifically on the Committee on Good Government, there were a lot of issues unraveled, no? And of course, it might be unintentional, or it might be also because of impunity. We don't know. But what is very clear there is hindi pinahalagahan yung pera ng taong bayan. Kasi it was very clear that there was checks being issued at 125 million quarterly, not once, not twice, but I think 4 times. And then another 37.5 million issued a single person. And the SDO does not know her job kasi the check, the billions of money is entrusted to you, and you should be able to take care of that. But it's like immediately passed on to somebody else, and that somebody else does not have any accountability. So that's the problem. I believe, magkakaiba ang utak ng mga tao. Others are saying, let it be, so that there will be peace in our country, and we agree to that. But others are also saying, no, there should be accountability. And that is, I believe, one of the reasons while there are persistent brewing discussions about impeachment.
I guess it all boils down as well, Congresswoman, to Congress or eventually the Senate, if it does reach to that point, that Congress should be able to do its job. Kanina po, ang sinasabi niyo po, it's what this is showing is that there is a working government. So I guess the question now is, kaya ho bang pagsabayin ang magtrabaho para sa mga distrito, mangampanya para sa susunod na eleksyon, at tukuyin kung meron ngang pagkakasala sa bayan ng isang impeachable official, Congresswoman? Kaya bang pagsabayin?
Yes, definitely. The work in Congress comes on weekends, that's Saturday and Sunday, and most of the members of Congress, I believe, are actually unopposed. No? And even if you have an opponent, your primary job is to be in Congress to legislate and to participate in the oversight hearings and the exercise of the oversight powers of Congress. The presence in the district is something that you do at the time where you have extra time and you have no obligations in Congress. Kayang-kayang pagsabayin lahat yan. Because there are, I believe, more than 300 members of Congress. And in every point of time that there is discussion, the members does not even reach 50. And if you remember, even during the time of our former President, Gloria Macapagal-Arroyo, we were discussing reproductive health care. It was a very contentious law and proposal and law. And we were also discussing sin taxes. Pero annually, there was also an impeachment being filed. No, talagang ikot na ikot lahat. And everybody was... we're used to working until wee hours in the morning. So kayang-kaya. But of course, very important there is to impart to the public what is being discussed, and that it should not be political, but it should be tasks that we are doing simply because it is our obligation to the people.
Okay, finally, Congresswoman, because we have been monitoring the proceedings there at the lower house, especially when the Vice President would choose to appear before your colleagues there. And I've noticed not less than, maybe twice when she was there, that you would actually stand up when there's a heated moment. Na parang nagpapagitna po kayo para lang din makatulong sa pagbaba ng tensyon dyan po sa Kongreso. How was that like for you, Congresswoman, and why did you make it a point to be there in the middle and to sort of do your job to help keep the temperature down? Go ahead.
First, if we will be too emotional about things, we will not be making the right decisions. Second, we are wasting time on emotions that would shoot up simply because at some point in the discussion, may kanya-kanyang pananaw. So of course, as Deputy Majority Leader and as one of the senior members in the House, we have to let things subside. Ang isa kasi dyan, yung iba dyan, matagal ko ng mga kasama. So I know many people in Congress, para na rin mga magkakapatid, and then they call me mommy, so they sometimes mistook me as their mom, even though they're a little bit older than me. But bottom line is, yes, we cannot avoid tempers, but then we always have to cool down and focus on the issue at hand. Na yung pinag-uusapan dito ay taong bayan, ginamit ba ng tama o ginamit ba ng mali? Bakit ito nangyari? Who are people accountable for this? And what should be the next steps so that this should not happen again? We have to refocus and bring back the focus there instead of, emotions and tempers shooting up.
Is that really the motivation here, Congressman? As you said, you're a veteran there in the halls of Congress. You've seen many motivations come and go during your stay there. But when you talk to your colleagues, when you see their actions, when you see their behavior, is that really their motivation? Para sa taong bayan lang ba talaga nila ginagawa ang mga ito? Or do you see something else there? Whether it's for the Vice President or against the Vice President, what is the motivation of your colleagues there at the House?
Well, iba-iba, no? There would be people there na para sa bayan, but some people would become emotional. I mean, apologies, no, but I have to say this. Minsan kasi meron ding ibang mga galaw if the camera is there, especially if there are people who are vying for national positions. So this is something that we need to prevent. Like even during budget deliberations, those who were standing up and repeatedly lambasting the sponsors of the agencies concerned, we're not doing it the previous years, and it's exactly the same budget, but because they would opt to run for a national position, then they would use that platform for more exposure. But then we all go back. Ang napaka-importante kasi dito is, ano ba yung pinag-uusapan? Ano ba yung dapat na pag-usapan? Ano ba yung ating patutunguhan? So we cannot just, debate, make opposing views, and then come up with nothing. Okay. That's why if tempers shut up, we have to let them cool down a little and refocus and pag-usapan yung mga nandoon. Kasi the resource persons are also there with their precious time, and we have to maximize that. Okay.
Finally, I know I've been saying that, but one last question for you, Congresswoman. It's been reported that by next week there's going to be another impeachment complaint that will be filed coming from a religious sector. But it's also been reported that a religious bloc has already said, and we're talking about the INC here, that they will hold a massive protest if there is going to be an impeachment complaint against the Vice President. How much is that figure in the discussions that you have with your colleagues? Meron ho bang pangamba? May takot ho ba dahil dito sa banta ng protesta mula sa INC?
Well, we are hearing a lot of information. Sometimes there's even information overload, and we among our colleagues would ask each other, o totoo ba yun na may ganito? O totoo ba na may ganito? And sometimes you'll realize na hindi pala totoo. So when you do things as a legislator, you work on things because it is your job, not because of what the external factors will say. But of course, on the higher echelon, on the executive branch, they would opt to consider that simply because the president would like to maintain peace within the country. That's why if you're going to observe in Congress, we now have the Quadcom, which is the super committee dealing on murang pagkain sa bawat pamilyang Pilipino. And what we can see is that people are also focusing on this. They want cheaper food. They want less smuggling. They want the numerous middlemen to be responsible for what they are doing and for them to be removed in the chain of wholesaler to retailer. So, itong mga bagay na ito nakikita namin mas gusto rin nga gusto ng taong bayan. So if we talked about opposing forces like religious organizations coming to the picture, though it's their prerogative to do such, and I am not saying that it's confirmed because I have not personally heard it from them. But of course, a religious organization should not be meddling with legislative work. They can always air out their beliefs, but they're supposed to be non-political.
All right. Congresswoman Janet Garin, their former health secretary as well. Thanks as always for taking our call. Let me be one of the first ones to greet you. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.